You're listening to FitPro Sessions with Parallel Coaching, episode number 42. Hi, I'm Neil Bergman, and in today's podcast, Hayley and I are talking how you can learn everything for your anatomy and physiology exam in 1 week. So stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Neil Bergman.
And I'm Hayley Bergman. Over the last 10 years, we've helped thousands of fitness professionals to get qualified, learn with simplicity, and coach clients with confidence.
We're the first to say that learning and being a fit pro doesn't have to be hard work, and that with the right structure, support and resources, you can become a confident and knowledgeable fitness professional that is dedicated to more.
So how do you learn, qualify and kickstart as a fit pro? This is the FitPro Sessions Podcast with Parallel Coaching.
So you've got 1 week to go. That's 7 days, 168 hours. So we're recording this on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
So if I had 1 week left, obviously, it's easy.
It's a Wednesday
It's
exam.
a Wednesday exam a week today. And
my anxiety just thinking about that has gone through the roof. Like,
Yeah,
it's feeling
too right.
of, I've left it too late. What on earth do I do?
so in this podcast episode, FitPro Sessions, we want to give you 3 clear tips of how you can break that overwhelm, ditch any anxieties, so you can knuckle down and make the most of the next 168 hours. Because in that time, you've also got to sleep, you've got to eat, you might train, you might ditch your training sessions, you
got work.
You might have to look after the kids if you've got kids. Life still has to take place. So stay tuned. Let's jump straight into the first point.
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to say, although it's not ideal that you only have a week, it's not ideal, and ideally you would have 4 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it might be, to a little bit longer to be able to really learn the information ready for your anatomy exam. 1 week isn't ideal, but it is still doable.
That's where I want to jump in. It is doable. You know what? I've almost lost count the amount of people that we've worked with that have phoned up in a panic, in a flurry, and gone, my exam is actually, we had one lady do it in 5 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know it's doable. So when we talk about kind of self-confidence, self-belief and self-efficacy, the belief in myself or the belief in yourself that it can be done, I know it can be done.
Yes.
There we go.
It certainly can be done. So then it's just a case of, how do you go about doing this? So how are you going to map out the next week? Now, the biggest question we usually get asked is, in a week, like as a time frame, how am I going to learn and read all 100 pages of the level 3 or level 2 anatomy and physiology manual? Like, there's a chunky amount of information in there to read.
And it's not just a case of reading it. You might have to reread certain parts to get it, to remember it. But I think that's the key. There's one thing reading something, but there's one thing, it's another thing retaining that information and being able to draw upon that information, so that when a specific question is asked, and in your exam, 99% of the time is going to be 40 questions. Some exams have a few more, a few less. It doesn't matter. But it's being able to draw upon and pluck that information from your brain, which is almost like a filing cabinet, and say, that is the answer, the specific answer, correct answer to this specific question. And, reading and remembering are 2 different things.
And I don't know about you, but when I read something, I end up having to, I read it through and I'm like, I have no idea what I just read. And then I have to go right back up to the beginning again and read it again. I might pick 1 or 2 words out. I'm like, I still don't understand it.
Hayley's a little bit better than me. I read something and I have to go to the dictionary to figure out what each word means. Reading's I'm not an instinctive reader. I'd rather listen personally or watch something. And I think that's the first tip, is to...
It's really key, and it's good because it condenses time.
The beauty of it for me personally, and so many learners that we've worked with, is when you listen to something or watch something, it's like you're being taught.
Ah, nice. Yeah.
And it's really nice to be able to be taught something and hear it from somebody else's mouth. And I found, and we've found some studies behind this, that you actually do remember and retain more when someone's telling you or teaching you.
Yeah, and I suppose it's how they teach you as well. So in a manual or when it's written down, it quite often just seems like a load of long words. There isn't the tonality to it.
There's no context behind it. There's no, what does this actually mean? I can understand that the ulnar and radius is in my forearm, but what does that actually mean in relation to being an outstanding FitPro.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the context comes in when you're listening or watching something.
Yes. Yeah. And also it condenses time massively, and you can use it whilst you've got other things going on. So whilst you're driving or walking the dog, you can be listening to that rather than feeling like you've got to sit down and have your manual open.
Definitely.
So you've got that condensing of time. And if I think about our level 2 and level 3 anatomy and physiology revision mastery boot camps, we've chunked it into 8 sections. So there's 8 hours of revision to cover the whole syllabus. I couldn't read 100 pages in 8 hours.
No, so if you think about that as a structure in your week, how do you do it in a week or less? It's, we've literally had people go through all 6 to 8 modules, depending on which bootcamp I get, in like day 1 to 2. Then do the cheat sheets alongside, then repeat it on kind of day 2 to 3, 4.
Yes.
And then kind of touch some of the tutorials that they need to brush up on day 4 and 5. And then you've got the kind of the exam strategy and the mock questions that, I'm going to say unseen mock questions, because we don't put these mock questions out to General Joe blog, so you can test your knowledge. So that's how I would do it, and that's how we structure it.
Yeah.
It's really, really simple, I think.
Yeah. And they can go through it really quickly in a time frame where you can say, right, I know that each module is an hour. Whereas when you're reading in a manual, one module could take you an hour, it could take you 5 hours, it could take you 10 hours.
I'm going to say that one module, if you just took, for example, learning the 50 muscles that you have to know at level 3, A and P, that's not going to take an hour or 5 hours. That could take a week in its own right.
Yeah.
Without actually being taught.
Yes, exactly. And the other part of this, and understanding about reading as an option, is why has it taken you till now to take the action? So if you've only got 1 week remaining,
that's a really great question,
and you've been trying to do it via reading, it might be that it's totally out of your control, and maybe your training provider's just gone, your exam's next week, in which case it's maybe less. Which
we do hear a lot of. They do hear a lot of, where the exams aren't. Certainly right now we're recording in week 9 or 10 of the coronavirus lockdown, so exams are just kind of cropping up and saying your exam date, you can choose exam dates, but there could be one in a week's time.
Yes. And then the other side is if you've known about your exam date for a while and you've been delaying.
Listen up and come closer if this is you.
And you've been delaying or putting it off, and you've been maybe opening up your manual and going, oh, I'm not ready to start this yet. I'm not ready to start this. It might be that the learning mode you're using, so reading, rather than using something different like videos or MP3, so audio, it means that that's actually stalling you and been the reason why you've not taken action sooner. So in which case, to make it a productive week, you're going to have to change something in
completely.
Order to make
I can't remember the exact saying, but you might be able to help me on this. If we keep doing the things we do, don't expect a different result.
Basically,
it's like the definition of insanity. Don't quote me on the non-quote, but basically, if I keep doing the same thing, I'm going to get the same results. And if today you've not been productive, I'm not saying that you've not been proactive, you've just not been productive in your revision, in your learning, and that's not working for you, then the next 7 days are crucial to kind of pivot and choose a slightly different course whereby the modality does work.
Yes, exactly. So that was about videos, and MP3s are a really effective way of making the most of the short time you have. But one of the other big questions we get asked...
Now listen up, this is a big question, ready?
Is that should I cut down on my sleep so that I've got more time to revise?
So inside your 7 days, you've got 6, maybe 7 nights, depending on when your exam falls. So let's just go on 6 nights, and in an ideal world, it's heavily researched. 7 to 9 hours sleep gives you a good level of recovery and a restorative sleep process based on the day before.
Yeah.
So 6 times 7, do my maths
42.
here. 42 hours, of your 168. So almost a third of your time is going to be asleep. So it would make sense for so many people to say, well, I'm just going to stay up later and get up earlier. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to say don't do that for a couple of reasons. First off, if you do choose to read, regardless, whatever modality you choose to learn, when you sleep, you download everything you've learned from that day to your short and long-term memory while sleeping. So if you revise for, let's just say 4 or 5 hours, you binge revise on a Monday, okay, and then you have less sleep Monday night, the stuff you've just learned is not going to be downloaded to your short or long-term memory, ready for the next day of revision, but more importantly, not for your exam. So you're going to get to this Tuesday, sit down and feel like you've not learned anything. And I've been there before, and I've worked with thousands of learners that have been there before as well. Yeah. More importantly, you're going to get to the exam day and go, I know I covered this topic. I know I covered energy systems. I know I covered bones and joints. I know I covered the heart and lungs, the respiratory system, but it's not in my noggin.
It's not in there.
And that's because we've not allowed ourselves to download all that revision time into our short and long-term memory, which again is, heavily documented and researched. So sleep, I'm going to say I'm a little bit of a sleep, what's the word I'm looking for?
Enthusiast.
Enthusiast,
no,
yeah.
Advocate.
It is literally the unnamed weapon of choice.
So you might think that you're going to save time by cutting it out.
Yes.
But by doing so, you could be undoing all of the extra revision that you're doing anyway.
What I would say as a great approach forwards would have a very clear go to bed time and a very clear wake up time. So have, do your day, but actually consider for a second that having more structure, more rigidity, being a little bit more strict for the next week is actually going to be one of your sharpest tools in your revision toolbox. So, for example, you might say, right, I'm going to go to bed at 10 o'clock. Now, most people set an alarm to wake up. Have you considered that you set an alarm to go to bed? So you might set an alarm for 9:30.
Nice.
And between 9:30 and 10, you have this kind of cooling down period where you don't look at your mobile phone, social media.
Or your revision.
You don't have any caffeine. You allow yourself to kind of allow melatonin, to the sleep hormone, to actually start to allow you to settle down. Close the curtains, close the blinds, open up the window, make the room you're sleeping in that little bit cooler. Okay, allow yourself to go into deep REM sleep quicker, download everything, and then have a clear wake up time. You might get up a little bit earlier, but you're not going to wake up mega early, because that's just going to make you feel grouchy. The brain and body's in this circadian, is that how you... Circadian rhythm, whereby you've got this clear, go to bed, wake up time set by hormones.
Yeah.
So you're not going to override evolution of the last however many hundreds of thousands of years just so you can have a good weeks of revision. It just isn't going to happen.
And if you're tired because you've not had enough sleep, then it becomes like the episode in In-Betweeners, where Will has to have all of the Pro Plus, and he has to have all of the Red Bull and the caffeine, which ends up in a bad way on exam day.
Well, yeah, completely. If you're looking for some kind of stimulant or a way of sedating out of feeling groggy or tired or overwhelmed or anxious, you are going to hit more caffeine, more Red Bull, Monster, Pro Plus. You're going to be going for more of the foods that pick you up, which
probably give you a big crash too.
So your go-to foods. And, when you do over-consume those things, it doesn't make you feel great. It also heavily distracts your sleep.
Yes.
So your long-term, short-term memory, if you want to remember this for exam day, sort your sleep out.
Yes. And talking about long-term and short-term memory,
yeah,
really importantly, this next question comes up a lot. Now, for those that have a little bit longer until their exam, but are thinking of leaving it until the last week strategically, I've heard many times learners ask, if I leave my exam revision or my anatomy exam revision until the very last week, will that help my short-term memory so that I can learn, so I can retain more of it in exam day? So if you're strategically asking, shall I leave it till the last week just so I can remember? Now, it might help. It might help short-term to recap information in the last week, but your long-term, not a chance.
No, completely. And I think that's where we need a bit of a reality check. We need to kind of walk around the table here and look at our revision, our study and our course, that you've spent a lot of time, energy and effort and money on in order to pivot and change career or kickstarting fitness, and just look at it from a different perspective. If we're looking at it going, how can I learn everything and have it stored in my short-term memory? What we're really saying there when we walk around the back of this and look at it from a different perspective is, I'm not bothered whether this sits in my long-term memory. And this information is vital to your success. You might sit there and go, well, I don't need to know about my ulnar and radius in relation to my client's weight loss goals. And in the grand scheme of things, you don't. However, when you put together the 8 modules of your course and understand the anatomy and physiology of the body, it's just like a car mechanic understands the workings of the car. Yet his job is to fix a certain part of the car, or to repair or replace a certain part of the car. That's your job as a coach, is to go in and for a better word, transform, repair a part of the body, the client's body. So you must know the inner workings of that, of how to get there.
Yes, so it's super important that you know anatomy. And how many times we said it? So important that you understand the purpose of having anatomy, and that you value that your exam is just a check-in that you're learning it. So if you've only got a week for your exam, then yes, obviously do everything you can to study for that exam and be the best you possibly can. But know that after that week, you can now go and learn that information and commit it to memory.
The exam is just like, you'll have your clients, you'll have them in week 1, you perhaps you will do a consultation, you perhaps do some kind of fitness testing. And then 4 weeks later, you'll do some more fitness testing to make sure you're en route towards your client's goal. And the reality is, your exam is like a fitness test. We're basically saying, at the beginning, when you got your course manual, you knew very little to nothing around anatomy and physiology and planning. And then for the person watching this, in 7 days' time, we're going to test your knowledge just like a fitness test, where you might do a park run, 5K, or a 1RM test or whatever. You're basically testing yourself and saying, have I improved my anatomy and physiology understanding? But it doesn't stop there. It keeps going.
Nice, I like that.
Wicked.
Yeah, exactly. So essentially, that's kind of it. If you've got 7 days till your exam, you're probably wanting this to be quite quick anyway. So my main tips would be, don't rely just on reading, because you can condense time and commit it better to memory using things like video and MP3. Also,
control your sleep and have some real structure to your week. So clear go to sleep times, clear wake up times, clear breakfast, lunch, dinner times, clear start, stop revision. Don't just plow through all of your revision. Have structured, 30 minutes, take a pause, take a break, go and do something else, come back to it. So it's an interval approach.
Yes.
I mean, the final point you made, just looking at the notes.
Was just about, if you do have the capability to have longer than 1 week, then take it, make the most of it. If you're stuck into 1 week, then do what you can in that 1 week, take massive action, but just know that after you've done your exam, you can still go and top up your knowledge, refresh it, and revisit things as much as possible, because that long-term memory of that information is still really important past the exam.
There we go. Now, we could probably come up with a dozen more tips, hints, advice and guidance, but the reality is, if this is you've enjoyed this and it resonates with you, the real secret is locked up within the Revision Mastery Bootcamp. That's your logical next step, I'm going to say, because that's going to structure your next 7 days. But you also get Hayley and I to hold you accountable, to check in. If you want to check in every day with us and say, this is what I've done, can I ask a question? You can jump on the phone, you can jump on email. That's part of the Revision Bootcamp, is that 24/7 access to Hayley and I.
Yes. And the main thing is, it covers everything you need to for your exam, structured into video and MP3 tutorials, so you can go through those. You can almost put your manual totally to the side.
Ditch the manual!
You don't have to learn from that, and then it means you can make the most of your time and prepare for that exam the best you possibly can. And then keep that knowledge in your lifetime access to your Revision Mastery Bootcamp to refresh it again after you've qualified, which is awesome.
There we go.
So yes, I'll put a link for that with this video, or if you're listening to the podcast, check the show notes and you'll have a link to the Revision Mastery Bootcamp in there.
At the very least, there's another link below for our Parallel Coaching Facebook Inner Circle, where there's literally I don't know, some like 1,500 people that are just like you, brand new to fitness, newly qualified, been in the fitness industry just a few months, maybe a year or two max.
Or training,
but are just rocking it. It's a real friendly group, asking questions, progressing as much as they can. So with that said, I hope you've enjoyed this one. FitPro session number 42.
Yeah.
We will see you next week. Final point. I want to know what you've learned. What are your 1, 2 or 3 top takeaways from this training? Drop that below in the comments. And outside of that, we'll see you on the next one. See you later.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Neil Bergman.
And I'm Hayley Bergman. Over the last 10 years, we've helped thousands of fitness professionals to get qualified, learn with simplicity, and coach clients with confidence.
We're the first to say that learning and being a FitPro doesn't have to be hard work, and that with the right structure, support and resources, you can become a confident and knowledgeable fitness professional that is dedicated to more.
So how do you learn, qualify and kickstart as a FitPro? This is the FitPro Sessions Podcast with Parallel Coaching.